Welcome back to the Fiasco Sports NBA season previews. I'm Matt Sampson. Joining me once again, Joe Schwab. Going to get in a bit of Bulls talk today, but just first before we get started, I'm going to say thanks again to Sporties at the Arca Bar for letting us film here nice and early every morning this week. So made the trek down. Link's going to be in the description to their Facebook page, so check them out if you're in Adelaide. It's great. You can get a good feed, watch some sport with some friends and everything. So check them out. But the Bulls, Joe, they're back. The Bulls are back.
They are back. I'm so excited about them this season. Derrick Rose is back. They've added Gasol. Look out. The Bulls are they're going to actually be able to score points this year.
I mean, it's hard to say. It's a bit harsh to say that the Bulls ever left.
Yeah,
really, because they did play really well last season. But the Bulls, I think, are finally going to be back to what we remember pre-Derrick Rose injury, because that is the big thing, isn't it? Exactly,
yeah. They'll be back to actually contending in the East, not just being a second or third round of the playoffs team. They're going to be up there. Derrick Rose will be the key.
Well, that's it. I mean, I've got them listed fourth overall in the East. So if you're one of the guys that's been watching every one of these videos, you might have noticed that there is another team in the East that we've put above them. But second overall in the East, I think, is a fair assessment for this Chicago team, especially considering we haven't seen a lot from this unit before.
Exactly, yeah. It's quite. They've brought in a few new players this year, but it's a fair assessment. I reckon with the East not being overly strong, all it was going to take was getting a couple of players, getting Rose back fit, and then you can't see them not making the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, I mean, looking at what they did last year, they finished with a 48-34 record, which is pretty incredible considering they only had D Rose for about 10 games before he was ruled out again. But it's a similar story, isn't it? Number one ranked overall defense, dead last offense.
That's a complete polar opposite. So that's a perfect example. How they still managed to have the season that they did is just incredible. Tom Thibodeau deserves a lot of credit for getting them as far as he did in the playoffs.
Yeah, well, that season, I think pretty much most of their success falls on how well Joakim Noah played last season. He really he took leaps and bounds in how he played.
Exactly. He was the key for them. He was almost up there in the most improved players, to be honest, just the way he came on both sides of the ball as well. Obviously, without Rose, the Bulls struggled to score points, so he stepped up on the offensive end. Like we talked about with Marc Gasol, Noah distributes the ball really well. It's another passing option on the low post, and his defense is just one of the best in the league for a big man.
Yeah, I mean, he led all centers in assists last year for the whole season, and for someone his size and you watch him play and he's a gangly looking bloke.
You wouldn't expect him to be a basketballer.
You don't think that he'd be that coordinator or anything, but you watch him play and he is just a beautiful passer. He really runs that offense from that high post, which is one of the strengths that Thibodeau's really unlocked in him. And he's a defensive player of the year as well. So he's no slouch on the other end of the court.
Yeah, exactly. He gets the job done. He's a beast in the paint. He gives so much to that Bulls team.
Yeah, and the weakness, it's pretty obvious to say, Derrick Rose's knees, which no pun intended, but the reason we haven't seen the Bulls win a championship in the last couple of seasons is because they haven't had an MVP on their side, which is what they did before.
Exactly, they've just been missing that one spark. As good as Noah's been, they've needed that one more superstar player, and Rose is that. He showed before he started getting those knee injuries that he was one of the best in the league. He won an MVP, so he's going to be the key for them this year if he stays fit, fingers crossed.
Yeah, well, Derrick Rose has come back. We'll look at a couple of other guys they've brought in. They added Gasol, who's no slouch himself, is he?
He's back. We were just talking about it before. He just looks happy now that he's left the Lakers.
He's finally free from being bashed every day by angry Lakers supporters. But, he's been killing it at the World Cup at the moment. I think, as of recording this, he's fourth overall in scoring at 21 points a game, which, a lot of people thought he was washed up last season.
Yeah, he's getting back to where he first started when the Lakers were winning championships. He's scoring points. And he's going to add so much to the Bulls team, and being happy as well, enjoying your basketball is just going to make such a difference for him, and you can really see him thriving in Thibodeau's system.
Yeah, I mean, those numbers are probably a little inflated because he is playing for Spain, and it is still the group stages, so you're going up against some teams that, aren't the cream of the crop, but he's definitely going to, that passing combination up the top between Gasol and Joakim Noah is really going to be it's going to be the best passing front court in the league, surely.
Yeah, definitely. And the best thing for the Bulls, it's going to take pressure off Derrick Rose as well.
Exactly.
He'll be able to take a bit more time just to get back into the swing of things. Obviously, he's playing in the World Cup at the moment, but it's going to take some time for him to adjust back into the NBA style of play.
Yeah, but it's really refreshing to see the Bulls sort of addressing some offensive needs, though, isn't it? Because we've touched
definitely.
on how abysmal that offense was at times. It was hard to watch, but they've added Derrick Rose come back, Pau Gasol, Doug McDermott, Dougie McBuckets.
I love this. Yeah, this is another great pickup by the Bulls. He's another point scorer. Like you said, it's great to see them addressing that. And even without Rose or Gasol, they could almost be a contending team just with McDermott. You look at I think it was his summer league form, he's just confident as ever.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of people were wondering if he could put points on the board as well as he did in college. But he doesn't have to, does he?
No, he doesn't have to do those ridiculous numbers, so there's less pressure on him.
Exactly. He can come in, he can have, 15 points here, 8 points here, just as long as if he can nail 3 threes to blow a game open and then hit the bench again, he's done his job.
Yeah, definitely. You've got to think that's all Thibodeau will be asking for. Just an impact player off the bench, score points here and there when he can. It's just going to add so much to that team.
Yeah, they've made a couple other changes. Carlos Boozer's gone, but he's sort of a direct swap with Pau Gasol, so you're not really losing anything in the front court. They lost DJ Augustine and Jimmy Fredette, who Augustine was great down the track when Rose was out. Fredette didn't really add much, which makes me really sad because I love Jimmer. But they've replaced Jimmer with another excellent college scorer, so hopefully that works out a bit better. But they brought in Aaron Brooks, who's a direct replacement for DJ Augustine. So, they're sort of staying par for the course, aren't they?
Exactly, yeah. They've gone out, they've replaced what they've lost, plus they've added a couple of extra pieces, which is always a positive for especially an NBA team in the off-season. If you can get ahead of the 8 ball, then you're definitely on the right track.
Yeah, and they've also added Cameron Bairstow, Aussie, Big Bear. He's going to add something. I think they signed him to a 3-year deal as a second-round pick, which, second-round picks, most of them don't make the roster.
Exactly, yeah. It's so good to see another Australian making the league and getting a good contract with a really strong team.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing a lot of second-round picks coming to Australia to get some experience in the NBL at the moment, and Bairstow is just straight into this Bulls lineup. Thibodeau's going to love how much he hustles. He can stretch the floor a little bit. And I think he's going to be a great pickup for the Bulls. So is Nikola Mirotic, who was drafted in 2011. He's been playing over in Spain, been just dominating it in the EuroLeague, and he's another guy that can stretch the floor and put points on the board, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely. This is another one of those ones that they drafted and they hired over in the European leagues for a couple of years, and he's going to come back. And it's another point scoring option. Like, the Bulls are just going to be they're just going to have so much choice this year. It's incredible. From one season to another, they could well and truly go into the top section of point scoring teams in the league from bottom.
That's what we talked about a little before we started recording as well, is they don't have to become the best offensive team in the league, but going from 30th, even if they can get into that mid-tier, sort of that 10 to 20 range, with that awesome defense they have, that should be enough to see them shoot up the rankings.
Exactly. The Spurs have showed that defense wins championships. So, yeah, if they can keep the best defense in the league and just slowly improve their offense, then they're well and truly going to be on track.
Yeah, and just like the Spurs score with the just plethora of options they have as well. And now the Derrick Rose and co have more options. It's not going to be all centred around just that one player in Noah distributing from the high post, trying to find scorers and everything. There's going to be a multitude of players that can contribute, just like San Antonio.
Exactly. They're going to get to the last, say, 2 minutes of games from now on, and they're going to go from not having any real options besides Noah to just having a stack of guys that Thibodeau can draw up plays for.
Yeah, and looking at the 5 crunch time guys I've put together here, we've got Gasol and Noah I've already talked about, same with Rose, same with McDermott, and Jimmy Butler, who's someone we sort of left out there as well, who's a excellent perimeter defender. If he can start hitting some outside shots, become that 3-and-D guy, he's going to really add some depth to this starting 5, isn't he? Yeah,
definitely. Like you said, he's a good perimeter defender. Every team needs one of them. With the way the league's going, with so many teams just bombing up 3-pointers all the time, he's going to add a lot. And if he can start hitting a few shots, then there's going to be more reason to keep him on the court.
Yeah, and he doesn't have to light it up either, because now they do have these offensive options. So bringing in that extra offense is going to help that already incredible defense. So, I'm really interested to see how the Bulls sort of pan out. I don't have them ranked number 1 in the East because we don't know how they're going to mesh straight away. but they're definitely going to be one of the most fun teams to watch as they develop and come on, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, it's almost a bit too early to predict them or to truly say that they're going to be the best in the East. You've got to wait and see how they sort of mesh together and how it works. But in all honesty, you've got to think that they're going to be up there.
Yeah, I mean, I could see them being easily the best team in the league in terms of regular season record. I can see them just coming out guns a-blazing, just locking teams down, putting points up and just finishing up the top there. But at the same time, I can see Rose is probably going to miss some back-to-backs. Pau Gasol didn't play a full season last year. Noah's had foot issues in the past, so there's lots of things that could derail them. Hopefully not for a whole year, but for short periods it'll see them draw back down the standings a bit. Yeah,
definitely. I think a lot of teams have worries like that, and with the Bulls, with the injuries, like you just said, to certain players, they're going to need, even if they might have to go with a sort of a Miami sort of style and rest a few guys here and there to get them through. But yeah, fitness and staying healthy will be the key for them. And if they do stay healthy, they're going to be right up there.
Well, we saw the Spurs do that as well last year. No one played over 29 minutes a game, I think, by the end of the season. So if they can really limit those minutes, manage some games, keep Rose off some back-to-backs, stay healthy, get ready for the pointy end of the season, that's all you need out of this team.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, the Spurs, the way they lowered their older players' minutes made such a difference for them in the NBA Finals. They were just running all over the Heat in the end just because they were fresher.
Yeah, but going back to those injuries, we're going to talk about probably the most famous injured player over the last couple of years, which, it's been really sad to see him off the court. But D Rose came back last year with he sort of sputtered out of the gates. He played the 10 games, about 16 points, 4 assists, only shot 35% from the floor. But 2 knee surgeries in 2 years it's really scary, isn't it, to think?
Oh yeah, it's massive, especially for a sport like basketball with the way they pivot and they jump around and just crazy, that sort of stuff. Any sports person is going to struggle to come back from 2 knee reconstructions. You look at the AFL guys, a lot of them don't come back from that, or if they do come back, they're not always as good as they once were.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not expecting an MVP year out of Derrick Rose this season. I think that's what really hurt him, pardon the pun, but last season was that everyone expected him to come back the D Rose that stole that MVP off of LeBron, because he'd had a year out, but it's more than that, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's going to be the perfect situation for D Rose to walk back into this year with having picked up Pau Gasol. Joakim Noah's leading that team. He's not going to have to come in and be that guy and have an MVP season. He can just relax. He can take the first half of the season to just readjust to the NBA style.
Yeah, I mean, but that being said, we've seen him play for Team USA at the moment, and there's been some moments where you've just seen the old Derrick Rose, just that explosiveness, that incredible bounce that he has and the speed. I mean, getting up the court in 2 bounces and finishing at the rim, like ripping it out of the net, getting it to Rose, and he's gone.
He just looks excited to play basketball again. Like you said, he's bouncing up the court, and watching him drive into the paint, it's just brings back those memories of a couple of years ago. He just looks really, really good.
Yeah, if we can see him back, running the floor like he used to be, getting up there, those back scratcher dunks he was throwing down. I've still got nightmares from when he destroyed Goran Dragic a couple of years ago. But I think it's going to be really good to see him. I mean, I'm really excited to see him play and repay me, I think. I mean, I drafted him first round in my fantasy league last year and lost him after 10 games. So I think, if anything, he owes it to me to come back and have a good year.
Definitely, he owes you a favour.
But moving on, this is, I think I've said it every episode now, this is my favourite part of the show, the Believe the Hypotheticals, which, thanks to the guys at the Believe the Hype NBA podcast, Tom Reed, Benyam Kadane, all the info's on the screen. Go follow them on all their social media platforms. Check out the podcast. It's really worth your time. It's really great listen. But they've got another prediction for us here, Joe. They've set the over-under for number of Cam Bairstow and Luc Longely comparisons at 63.5, and we'll probably take the over. What are your thoughts?
I'm with them there. I'll definitely take the over. You just got to look at Cam Bairstow and you just see Luc Longely. I mean, it's a big Australian playing for the Bulls. That's all the American commentators are going to need, let's be honest.
Yeah, I was really going to jump on that as well, because I mean, in terms of game style, they're not really the perfect fits in terms of a comparison, but as Australians, we know the ins and outs of both players, but in America, all they see is a big, somewhat goofy looking Australian bloke in a Bulls uniform, and it's like, well, Longley played for the Bulls a while ago, but no, I'd definitely take the over. I mean, 60, if he's having a good game, you might get that in a couple of weeks. So yeah, definitely be taking the over on that one, boys. But we're going to wrap it up with the Bulls real quick. 30-second preview, buzzer beater. What's your prediction for the Bulls?
I see them Eastern Conference Finals. They'll take on the Cavaliers. It's going to be D Rose versus LeBron. Can't wait for it. If they stay fit though, if they get injuries, they'll struggle. But if they stay fit, can almost see them going the whole way.
That's it. My prediction is that the Bulls' season will be determined by fitness. You know, Derrick Rose, he's going to struggle on back-to-backs at times. They're going to have to rest him. Like we've touched on, Gasol, Noah, a bunch of their guys have some checkered injury issues. But a fully healthy Bulls team, Eastern Conference Finals, 7 games against the Cavs, up for grabs. They could make the finals.
Yep, definitely.
But that's all the time we've got time for today. Thanks for joining us on the Fiasco Sports NBA season previews. I'm Matt Sampson. This has been Joe Schwab. Once again, Sporties at the Arkabar, links in the description. Check them out. Definitely, if you're in Adelaide, it's worth coming up and having a look around. Thanks to the guys at the Believe the Hype NBA podcast. Whether you found us on fiascosports.com, Ballside NBA blog. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.